Hello again, everybody. So in this lesson, we're just going to talk briefly about a display feature in CSS. But before we get onto that feature, I do need you to remember block level inline elements, which we talked about way back in the HTML course. So as we already know, HTML is divided into two basic groups. So these are block level and inline elements. So here we see the most used block level and inline elements. So we can say that tags are the most common block elements, and they're header tags, or p tag, list tags, and of course, div tags. And we can also say that the most common inline elements are img, a, and span tags. So the main difference between block level and inline elements is that the block elements cover the entire line in which they're used, while the inline elements only cover as much space as their content. All right? So I want to give you a couple of examples in the application so that we can understand this a bit more, clearly. So we can start by creating a new HTML file and new CSS file in Atom. So I'll first specify the title in the HTML file. And then I'll specify the CSS file name in link tag. So I'll create a header and a paragraph. So I'll specify the background colors in the CSS file so that we can fully grasp the block level element concept. And if we save the changes and look at our page in the browser, we can see that both the header and the paragraph section cover the entire line. Now, this is exactly what we're talking about here with block level elements. So let's look a little closer. See how these elements, they don't come in side by side. Block level elements start from a new line like this. So let's look at the inline elements. So here I'll include this word in the span tag. And I'll make the background color white. So we refresh our page and let's have a look what's going on. So here is the word that we took in the span tag, and it didn't start from a new line, and only the content changed to the color of the area. So here I add a few span tags to show that inline elements are added on the same line. And I'll make the background gray so that we can see the changes a little better. And look at that, the block elements are not on the same line where the inline elements can be on the same line. Got it? So I think we can better understand block level and inline elements with CSS. So, quick question. Can we change these block and inline properties that are used by default? Of course we can. We're programmers after all. So here comes a display feature, and this is how we'll use it. I'll set the display property to inline for H1 and P tags. And when we refresh our page, now all what we wrote is on the same line. So how do we make a block span element that is inline by default? Well, for that, we will use the display block feature. So when we refresh our page, we can see that the span tag block element has come into view. Now, there's another feature that I want to tell you about, because when we want to change the width and height of inline elements, Can't make any changes. Well, let me show you something. So I make the width and the height values 200 pixels for each one, but I don't see any changes, do you? Not the case with block elements. So I'll just make the width and height value 100 pixels for the span tag 2, and I can see that the dimensions have changed. So how do I change the size of inline elements? So here we will use the inline block feature for display. So if we change the display property for H1 to inline block, we can see that its dimensions have also changed. So thus we have used this element for both the inline and by changing its dimensions. So here's the last feature that we're going to use, and that's the display none feature. So there's no paragraph when we refresh this page, but when we use this feature for p tag, it's like it's never been there. So this feature makes the element invisible. Of course, you might want to use this feature when testing. That's what I do. So there you have it, block level and inline elements. It's certainly a lot easier to understand once you get into the visual aspect of CSS. And then we talked about the positioning of the elements differently with display features. So I'm going to see you in the next lesson. I count on it.